like that job description that you guys wrote.
Oh.
Very impressive. Let's see what you have to say about that.
Right. Well, and thank you for both you and Cindy replying right away. And then I don't know if you read the one for the council president too, but it was like all that
And yes, good. Very good.
You know, it is like, and they were asking about the number of hours. It's really hard to quantify. Like I went through my calendar and just pulled up.
Yeah.
I can look and say, okay, these 12 copies, right, are on my calendar.
Right.
But between those 12 copies were 100 emails, 30 phone calls.
Great. I think they're going to get it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they did. I got a little scared. This is from the attorneys at law, and I was like, what?
Good evening, everybody. Why don't we, 1 minute warning to begin.
Really hard to hear.
I can talk loud.
Yeah.
Give us 1 minute, we'll start. This is a scheme by the administration to get us to talk louder and shorter. Sweat us out and drown us out, right? That's a joke.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Good humor. Okay, are we ready to begin, everyone? Let's call to order the meeting of the Housing Planning and Development Committee for today, which is Monday, May 20. First, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of the May 6th meeting of the committee.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, and the ayes have it. Okay, tonight we have 3 ordinances. 2 relate to marijuana legalization for dispensaries. And the third is a resolution for Resolution 2024-12 to adopt the Madison Park Master Plan. I'd like to suggest to my colleagues that we do that first. Sound agreeable? Okay, the reverse of what we did last meeting. So let's turn to that. The legislation is simply to that the proposed language, the master plan for Madison Park as generally attached is hereby adopted. That's what council is being asked, or this committee rather, is being asked to do. I'm hopeful that tonight we can conclude our work, recommend to the full council adoption. To that effect, we have had some dialogue with the administration informally between the meetings to incorporate some of the changes that we discussed, or the improvements, refinements, additions we discussed at the last public meeting 2 weeks ago, which was a joint meeting with council and with this committee and with the Planning Commission. And there were a number of good ideas that were raised on both ends. So, Mr. Boss, you're here with the administration. Do you have a quick summary, or maybe I could take a stab at my communication with your colleagues?
No, I would say, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just say that I think the outcome of the discussions over the last week or longer, as I understand, working with Ms. Nocta from our department, resulted in, I think what you see on the screens up here is the additional considerations section that was added to Section 5, which is the implementation plan within the Madison Park Master Plan. And so these additional considerations, there's 7 bullets that just have already been integrated into the final draft of the plan to kind of highlight, I think, a lot of the things that that you and Ms. Nocta had discussed over the last week or so since the last meeting. And so.
That's right. All right. So, and this, Mr. Boss, is included in the version that's on our docket tonight in Granicus. I'm looking at a 146-page document.
That's correct.
And the last, now the third to last page, page 144 for council members, will display what you see on screen here, and the public can see on screen here. So this is simply a way, it looks like we have a slash instead of a period to correct in the first bullet, but other than that, so quickly, separating players for different groups, that reflects some of the discussion that we had last time, as well as improved sight lines and play areas. Lakewood City Council will continue to work with Public Works to increase access to restrooms year-round. That is needed in all parks at all times. And we've made progress on that, but we want to keep making progress on that in various parks. Consider feasibility of placement of amenities and pay special attention impact that they might have on neighbors. Prioritize and strengthen partnerships with businesses, especially to the south of the park, and provide more amenities to the south side of the park to help activate and enhance the basketball area. That's something that I in particular brought up. Is important to further study reported safety issues at nearby street crossings and improve safety to and through the park. Consider improving marketing of the park and pursue and improve the perceived safety of the park, and examine ways to encourage utilization of the baseball outfield for recreational and passive uses when it is not being used for baseball. For example, opening the existing gates on the side of the field to encourage free play. Public art and shade and seating areas were three of the points that we discussed. Mr. Boss, do you have any points there, or is that not called out here because that's called out in other portions of the plan?
I believe that's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So the hope would be that, so the plan already calls for approximately year 5, some pretty interesting artistic gateways at various points around the park. Those are going to be larger installations, a little bit more expensive. You probably want to spend some time in design. But the hope is that prior to that, you can do smaller, I shouldn't say smaller, I should say less work-intensive and less expensive public art additions like murals and signage. Wayfinding signage might, for example, incorporate art. The informal conversations I've had with the planning department have been we could use our public arts committee to begin to work on that, you know, in the next 1 to 3 years rather than wait until 5 to 10 years out. Let me pause there. Comments and questions from council members or other comments from the administration on what we've discussed so far? Ms. Marks and then Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to see these additional considerations. I think there's some important issues to open up the ball field when it's not in use. I think that would be very important. And I know we recently heard about handball also. I don't know if that's something that can be incorporated into Madison Park. I know having a blank wall someplace would be a challenge, but since there is an interest now in the community and the schools are organizing it, it would be nice to see that be available at some of our parks. And if it could be at Madison, that would be great since we're just starting that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I appreciate the planning department's willingness to work with council and include all of these additional considerations in the plan, because I think it's important, you know, when someone goes and pulls this document in 5 or 6, 7, 8 years, when they go for grants, they're not going to look at the legislation or the video of our meeting. They're going to look at the plan. So I appreciate that. I would like to understand a little bit more the further study safety issues at nearby street crossings and improve the safety to and through the park. That's, you know, one thing that came up in our last meeting, the joint meeting with Planning Commission, and it unfortunately happened after the meeting, so we couldn't get on the record, was some discussion about your sense of arrival along Madison as you drive in front of the park. It's not abundantly clear that there's the second biggest park in the city, you know, to your south as you're driving past. You see a library and then what looks like a kind of a municipal public building and Beck's Pool, but then there's a parking lot. And you don't really notice that there's a large park. So some, you know, wayfinding or sense of place, you know, maybe even the inclusion of a tree-lined or like a median, although I understand you want to retain a lot of the turning north points into the businesses that are north of the park. But I'm wondering if you would think of those types of things, traffic calming, maybe a tree-lined or some sort of median, along with some signage. I mean, everyone wants, like, you know, some arch above the road announcing the park here. That's very expensive. It's hard to do. But I think something along those lines that notifies people that there is a giant park to the south, as well as improves pedestrian access, as well as notifies the drivers to slow down a little bit because there's a park use to the south. Would you consider that as part of that bullet point we talked about?
In short, yes. I think that's retaining the maximum amount of flexibility is probably the better course of action with a master plan. I think specific to the discussion of the crossing, you know, not to delve too much into the details on the north side of the park, is that's pretty specific, especially getting into specific types of solutions and calling them out in a broader master plan when you didn't necessarily go through the same level of detail that, say, like the active transportation plan did on some of those intersection recommendations that get that specific. And so that's where I would hesitate to kind of a little more caution in terms of that level of specificity in specific locations. And a general statement we still feel suffices in terms of this plan. it allows you the maximum amount of flexibility to include all of those things that you talk through as those opportunities come up kind of in the future as we continue to look at implementation of this.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think that suffices. My only concern. I mean, it was talked about in the joint meeting, but, it's either Clarence, which is a challenging intersection, or it's all the way over on Halsted. And, that's asking a kid on Grace to have to go, 1,000 feet to get to the park, which is a challenge. And I do think that some treatment there would inherently slow down people. Like if that treatment could announce there's a park, right, or in some way signal to drivers. But I think that adequately kind of encapsulates my decision in a broad enough way that give Public Works, you guys, funding sources enough ability to go get funding for it.
Councilwoman Marks?
Thank you. To add on to what Councilman Baker said, there used to be a crosswalk at Grace Avenue, and then it was moved to Clarence. But Grace is a very busy street. I know because I live on it, and people walk up Grace all the time to go to the pool in the park. And having to walk over then another block to get to the crosswalk, I think, is inconvenient, and you'll have people crossing by Grace Church against a crosswalk. So I think some consideration to putting a crosswalk back at Grace would be important, because that's really where people access that area on foot and bikes more than cars. Just something to consider. Thank you.
Mr. Boss, any thoughts there? I know you just spent a lot of time on the active transportation plan looking at these intersections. I don't recall, without trying to scramble for a PDF right now, which is dangerous to do in a live meeting, exactly what we said at the north end of Madison Park for those intersections.
So, Mr. Chair, I appreciate it. So there was a lot of discussion of those crossings specific to Grace and other crossings. They did not. These two planning, this and the active transportation planning effort were coordinated. They did share information, share data. None of these intersections rose to that level of the intersections that were identified in the active transportation plan for intervention. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not committed to looking at, exactly as the statement said, those crossings, improving safety. Grace is probably not the only crossing to look at. I mean, in terms of we're working on, a new entrance there on the Halsted side. We're committed to looking at the pedestrian flow to and from that park, and I think that encompasses all of those, the safety issues, the convenience issues, the distance issues. All of that is kind of wrapped into when I say that, so hopefully that suffices.
Okay, does that answer your question? Thank you, Councilwoman. Maybe I can add my thoughts here too. So I think what I recall from the Planning Commission comments was it was safety and access and calming, but also wayfinding, or I don't have a different term other than that, but when you're driving on Madison, to call out the fact that you've got not only a park here, but our flagship, one of our flagships in the city, one of the top two parks in the city. And I thought that was a fair point, that you kind of cruise on by, and roads tend to get prioritized for motorized vehicles, as we've talked quite a lot about. So I hope that it's like another lip, the famous Lakewood lip at Fox Field, right? We've got the lip between these two plans, the active transportation and the master park plan, that we have a nice integration there, so that as we sort through the transportation components, we do not, we have a dual value to the park to call it out and make it beautiful and interesting and all the rest. So my question for you, Mr. Boss, is does that signaling to road users and visitors that a park is nearby function get incorporated into what you just into what you covered in your answer to Councilwoman Marks?
I think, Mr. Chair, it's a natural crossover, just given the consideration that that when anytime you're looking at improving safety for a crossing, or you obviously have to consider the geography of where you're at and the characteristics of the roadway and the things that surround it and those potential paths the pedestrian paths. And so I think, I mean, to Councilman Baker's point earlier, I think, and then to your point, Mr. Chair, that the crossings being directly associated with Madison Park they brings those additional considerations into it. It's not just a speed table across Madison is a horrible example, but there's better ways to treat that crossing so that it encompasses all of those things that you're talking about.
Okay.
Gateway type treatments, those other things to identify the presence of a park, and it's not just a continental marking of a high visibility crosswalk. But there's
And do we need more for our friends at ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, who like to say there's one size that shall fit all in Ohio, and no city shall not have too much leeway and discretion? Don't we need to armor up our approach by calling out in the master plan that we've?
No, and I think that's where we prefer to retain as much flexibility in terms of that, because you do take every single one of these as a case-by-case basis, and there's a million considerations that go into these. So
Okay.
the more flexibility that we have in a master plan, it sets us up. It doesn't lock us into a particular direction down the road. So.
Okay, and my concluding thought here is there's a tendency, at least by me, to try to over-torque these plans because this is the one chance City Council has for a long time to touch this stuff. It matters enormously to us and to the people we talk to on a daily basis, a weekly basis. They say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? This great idea. And we say, well, the plan just shipped, and it's glossy and high, polish, and we're not going to change it for 10 years. Now, I think the real answer is that's not. We can still make updates and edits and incorporate some of these good ideas as we go along, right? But if, for example, we're asking for a new feature at a park, we don't want Public Works Department in Lakewood to say, hey, it's not in the master plan.
No,
So that's why you tend to get the overly detailed edits from us. And so, maybe this is as much a comment as a statement or as a question, but, to the administration in general, the leadership here, as some of these important features come onto the to-do list, I know City Council is going to be interested in being a part of that discussion.
I can appreciate it, Mr. Chair. I think in terms of how we approach planning, in terms of the hierarchy of plans, this master plan would then support the development of subsequent, like a gateway plan or something, if we're ever going to do that down the road, just as the active transportation plan is intended to then support subsequent nested supporting corridor plans as roads come up for improvement, just like we're doing with Bunts right now. You refer back to that plan, you find out what generally was guided for that, and then you develop the specific plans off of, so that those things are nested, if that makes sense with you.
It does.
Getting overly specific on a master plan or a broad plan really locks you in and limits your flexibility in developing subordinate plans down the road.
Okay. Mr. Baker?
Yeah, and I appreciate the conversation, because to Councilman Bullock's point, sometimes that happens, right? And we're up here on the dais, but in 5 years, it's not in the plan, sorry. And I do think, though, that this, like some sort of gateway plan or any of these, right, like this is perfect for like county casino money or something like that, right? A $50,000, $100,000 project. I'm thinking of the Sloan, Detroit, Valley Parkway intersection that started with, people didn't like it, right, at first. It was paint. But it showed proof of concept for, turn radiuses and everything. And then it became a very nice neck-down intersection. So, and that's next to a park. So I hope that that's something the Planning Department administration will continue to think about as it relates to this park, because it's not just the park, it's how you get people there, how they feel like when they get there, how safe they feel leaving it, walking there, not driving there, those types of things.
Okay. Thank you for letting us make our point thoroughly here. Mr. Matt Bixenstein is here wearing his team colors as usual, Madison Park, Friends of Madison Park. Any public comments from you?
I appreciate the conversation. I think you guys are nailed the head with making it easier for accessible pedestrians to get there. And I agree with Grace Avenue and Cloud Lake. I'm excited about all of this. Kudos to you guys on the conversations here.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. I'd like to entertain a motion from the committee we've got a
I'll make a
substitute
motion to recommend adoption of the resolution at full council. Or do we have to amend, do we have to substitute the ordinance to include the so I will make a motion to substitute the resolution to include what is in Granicus, the most recent version of the plan that the planning department has given us.
Second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Point of order, Madam Clerk, that's the correct motion you wanted for parliamentary procedure? Yeah, okay. Okay, all right, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it.
And I'll make a motion to recommend approval of the substituted resolution to full council.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Okay, that concludes a lot of good work on that resolution of this committee and that topic, and we expect in an hour's time or so that we'll resume consideration of that excellent plan. Let's see if we can move swiftly to the two remaining ordinances in about, I think we have 30 minutes, right? On marijuana legislation. Yes, we have 30 minutes. Ordinances 41-2023 and 42-2023. Law Director, do you have a statement you'd like to open with? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, and very importantly, with us is Audrey McConaughey, the new law clerk to the Law Department. She will be going into her second year as a law student at Cleveland State, and we are thrilled to have her. And
Welcome.
She wanted to come see a good committee meeting, and I said this would be a good one. Okay, there are just a few issues outstanding that need some discussion, I think. And it relates to the zoning issue. If I could just start with the zoning issue. The first one that the Law Department wants to bring to this committee's attention is we discussed a couple of weeks ago that the Planning Commission has recommended that the ordinance have a limit of no more than 3 adult use dispensaries. We think that creates a legal headache for us, and it's unnecessary. The Planning Commission realizes that it's very impractical under our zoning code and under the issues that are addressed by the Planning Commission for there ever to be 3 dispensaries. We're looking at one on the east side, one now is on the west side, and as you know, there's a 1-mile restriction for any other one, which makes it physically possible for a third, but very impractical and likely never to get past Planning Commission. Given that it's highly unlikely ever to get a third past the Planning Commission, we think it creates legal risk for the city unnecessary if we have an ordinance that limits it to 3, because then we're subject to the argument that your city council said 3. Why, Planning Commission, are you denying my conditional use license? You're basically laying out standards where nobody could ever have a third. So that's one legal consideration for this committee. The second one that's still open is the drive-through window. It's not irrelevant what the industry, what their interests are, certainly not dispositive. And I'm pretty sure on the east side, all of the Planning Commission work that RISE has done does not include a drive-through window. So I don't think the industry, although they would like as much flexibility as possible, I don't think that that's a critical issue to them. The next open issue is
So, Mr. Law Director, do you have therefore a proposed edit on that point, or you're just advising us that the question of whether the drive-through window is included or not included
Yes.
is of lower importance?
It's in the proposed edits.
Okay.
I don't have it in front of me. I'm opening it up now, Mr. Chair. But it should be in red line form, that issue. Is that what you just referenced, Councilman?
Yeah, it's in 1165-04F. You put drive-through facilities as defined in, you don't have the definition, but shall not be permitted, assuming that's a section of the code.
That is correct. So it's in red line for the committee, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
to consider. Similarly, what's also redlined are the hours of operation. That is left to be resolved. A fact for consideration is right now, RISE operation, according to their webpage, is from 9 in the morning to 8 in the evening. The state law allows the adult use dispensary to operate within the hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So ripe for the committee is the question, do we have adult use starting after the rush hour, after the school hour? Given that it is truly expected that we're going to see a lot of car traffic, potentially a lot of car traffic. And then fourth, not in the zoning code, we'll come back to the regulatory commercial code, and it's the issue of fees. So the issue of fees is outstanding. We discussed 2 weeks ago about the excise tax being placed on adult sales, or on adult use sales. That does not apply to medical sales. So the state will tax the first dollar and all dollars of sales at 10%, and the city will get 36% of that. So the city of Lakewood will get 3.6% of all the adult use sales. Currently, we have a structure of a licensing and fees for medical use because that's pursuant to the medical ordinance. And you have two versions in front of you, one that repeals the entire regulatory scheme and repeals the fees for medical, and a second one that maintains the regulatory system, maintains the fees, but has some edits to it. So I'll entertain questions. I understand there are questions on the fees, and I'd be glad to answer any of those questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Before getting into those questions, so you just covered both ordinances 41 and 42-2023, I think, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
The high-level points, Mr. Chair, that I thought I wanted to raise.
Very good. And secondly, is there any recommended timeline by the administrator? Are you hoping to complete our work tonight and report out, or the opposite and come back? I know that June is fast approaching, but we're not at the end of June yet, so.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I don't believe there's urgency for the full committee to adopt this evening. We can come back in 2 weeks for the full council. I'm sorry, for the full council to approve it. We understand that the earliest the industry will be up and running in Lakewood. The earliest is June 24th. A schedule that comes back in 2 weeks allows for that to happen.
Okay.
Again, we're trying to, as a courtesy, work with our partner, RISE. It's not required. We do have the moratorium in place through the end of July. However, if we act in 2 weeks, that keeps everything on schedule so that if RISE were to operate adult use sales June 24th, they would be able to.
Okay, so from your perspective, a good approach is take a few steps tonight, come back in 2 weeks, and then potentially complete our work in 2 weeks.
That fits with everybody's
Okay.
schedule.
And,
Sure.
and just on that timing, council members, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I think we could wrap this up tonight.
Okay.
And I think if we wrap this up tonight and pass it, then 2 weeks we could have repealed moratorium on the docket.
The repeal is in this. They added it.
They added the
Repeal
moratorium.
is in this, in their version of the edits, yes.
Oh, okay, didn't notice that. You thought of everything. But yeah, on top of that, I think I can make. I agree. I think it's it's unnecessary to have a restriction on the amount of dispensaries to be located within the city at any time. I think that's going to be dictated throughout the evolution of this. I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago that marijuana would be legal in any form? And actually, geez, time flies. Let me go 20 years ago in any form. here in Ohio. Things evolve. Who knows if it starts getting actually treated like alcohol, be allowed to be sold in different areas that are less restrictive than dispensaries currently are. So I'd be fine with proposing a motion to, well, I think first we would have to substitute this version, and then we could start amending this version. But once that occurs, eliminating the section D from once in section 9, eliminating section, striking section D, that not more than 3 marijuana dispensaries shall be located at any time within the city of Lakewood. And in terms of how long the hours of when the dispensaries are to be open, I mean, I don't like to play the game of predicting patterns of behavior of people and what's going to cause traffic in this instance or not in this instance. I would like to provide for more flexibility in terms of that. If the state is allowing between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., and that permits for more spread out time, especially in the beginning when this all starts out. I mean, there's been articles predicting there's going to be a lot of long lines, high prices, and probably not a lot of availability of product. That'll die down. If anybody's ever been to an opening of a Chick-fil-A up here, I think it's going to have the same impact. Be very busy in the beginning and then start to taper off. Although that Chick-fil-A in Lake County is very busy all the time. I don't know what's going on over there. So I'd be fine going from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m., 11 p.m.'s. But really, if the state's permitting between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m., I really do not have any data-driven or any other thought in terms or experience that would lead me to believe, oh, we need to shorten this time between here and here because of X. So if the state is allowing that point, it's not broken yet, so why fix it? And that brings us to the drive-through facilities. I think everyone could agree, and at least we've heard from the public, and I've heard in conversations past regarding drive-throughs in general, they're not necessarily desired. And I think especially at this point, and I think long into the future until regulations loosen up, that drive-throughs are not going to be in this form really practical. And here in Lakewood, we want to reduce traffic, not increase it, not give people a reason to drive places. So I'm fine with the provision that prohibits drive-throughs at this point. So those are my thoughts, teeing it up. Probably get a motion out there eventually. And we'll cover fees when we get to that resolution.
And Councilman, do you have, beyond the several points that the law director highlighted, do you have other points going through this that you'd like to make? Or you can hold that for a future.
I mean, I would just say, as currently written, I think it meets everything that we're trying to do here. We're really, the thing is going to be, the amount of dispensaries is going to be governed by the zoning code, which is, I think, a fair way to do it, proper way to do it. And when it gets to the fees, I believe that's a discussion that Councilman Baker wants to tee up. But I think Councilman Baker's perspective on the fees is interesting, and I'd like to hear more from him about that.
Okay. Before we get into a big fee discussion, can we cover the other points? I've got one question about security plan, but go ahead, Councilman Baker, and then.
Yeah, thank you. A high level, just thank the law department. You can tell a lot of work and effort, and maybe our law clerk assisted as well, but I know Jen Swallow did a lot. So really appreciate it. And I think the administration, and Jen, we talked about it on the phone, you said the moratorium was repealed. I couldn't find it in what you sent, though. Is it?
It was not in the version that was sent to you last week or whenever I sent that.
Okay.
I did add it in
Okay.
however, in the title, and then a very last section, section 20 became, and repealing.
Can you read it briefly, if
Yep.
it's short?
Yeah, section 20, resolution number 2023-64, adopted November 20th, 2023, enacting a moratorium on adult use marijuana in the city of Lakewood is hereby repealed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you. And, you know, the other points, in my, and we, Assistant Director Swallow and I had a long discussion about this today. You know, and there was some discussion at our last committee meeting about, do we just completely abandon any kind of like certificate of compliance or any kind of like city inspection? I do think that right now, the state may have a licensing regime and a hours of operation and a way of operating that we are okay with. But the moment we give up local control over it, the state can change it. And then we wouldn't have a backstop of our local ordinances to govern those issues. And I think that no one knows Lakewood and how to properly regulate business and the unique interplay between commercial corridors and residential houses that are being right next to each other than us in Lakewood. So I do think that having the regulatory structure in place, even if it at times right now mimics what the state has, is okay. And in fact, it's what I would prefer, to see that those things are continued. And then, you know, if the state changes and we would like to change as well, we can do that. I think we're sophisticated enough actors to kind of implement those things and know our community well enough, better than state regulators down in Columbus may. And then the other thing, going through some of the things that Director Vargo and Assistant Director Swallow talked about, limiting it to 3, you know, I think that's a question. I think if you look at the zoning map, there's like one area kind of near Elmwood on Madison where one could technically go. So that would be the 3. If we limited it to 2, then it would, you know, kind of eliminate that. Especially if Rise closes the west location, then we have one on the east side, and then you can have one kind of anywhere on the other side of it. On the drive-through, I'm good with, once again, the local issue with Lakewood. Drive-throughs, our communities don't like them. So whatever we can do to get away from that is good. Particularly on the fees, and I think that the way the amended legislation calls it, one of the is the certificate of compliance. You know, there was some interesting interplay. Many of you were on council when the original medical marijuana issue came up. I was on Planning Commission, and Planning Commission got a whole education from a lot of the applicants about what the state was doing, what the city could do, kind of our licensure regime, our compliance with what we wanted that was unique for Lakewood. And the applicant stood in front of Planning Commission and said, we are okay with the $25,000 fee for the medical license and the percentage of sale. They said our success will be your success. And so while in Planning Commission I was looking at it from a land use perspective, that was persuasive in how we look at it. Now there has been some additional legislation in the State House that removed the percentage of sales issue, but there still is the $25,000 fee that we currently have in our code. What I would recommend, and this is what I talk with the law department, but recommend on the floor tonight for us to discuss is a fee structure where for medical still requires a $25,000 fee, but we repeal the percentage of sale. If you have adult use and medical, that $25,000 fee is waived because, and we specifically put it in this section, because the state has a regulatory scheme where we will receive 36% of the 10% of that tax structure. But if that goes away, the city may adopt our fee or revise our fee structure accordingly. The reason why I'm proposing that structure is that I believe adult use will eclipse medical sales, and I believe everyone in the industry is telling us that. What the voters in Lakewood overwhelmingly approved when they approved the initiated ballot was that structure that guaranteed Lakewood, that said that Lakewood was going to get 36% of the 10% of taxes the state was going to take. And so that this intense use that's in our community, there's a benefit to the city for it. So I would just want to make sure that we codify that into our ordinances so that we're basically saying we're waiving this fee because of what the state will bring an adult use revenue. And that way, we kind of retain our flexibility into the future if the state messes with that formula.
Okay, thank you. It's quite persuasive. Okay, before I comment or anything, Councilwoman Marks, do you have any points you want to raise or questions? How about Councilwoman Streebig? Okay. Councilman Baker, okay, firstly, the fees are in 41
Yeah, I believe it's
2023.
77908, and it's in, what the ordinance number?
Page 11 of.
You've got it up on screen here. Okay. So the language you just,
I would work with the law department. I don't have language right now that I could produce an amendment with.
yeah. So, but the concept would be, let me just get caught up here on my screen. All right, so fees right now, it says every application, renew. All right, well, all right, so it's paragraph C. Can you zoom, Councilman Schechter, you zoom in? So paragraph C, well, yeah, then that's fine, that's fine.
Rotates. I don't think we have that technology. Oh.
Look at that. Excellent. All right, so paragraph C here, in addition to the application and investigation fee required in A and B above, every applicant is hereby shall pay the city an annual $25,000. Okay, and so as currently drafted, that would apply to adult use and medical. But what Councilman Baker just proposed in concept would be that would only be for medical, so you'd retain the word medical, which in this screenshot is stricken. The part that I could use a little bit of help with is how you're essentially saying we're going to have it in local code, but the local code will defer to the state law as long as that state law is in effect.
Well, what I'm trying to do is
Goes away, it come, local code will kick in.
is what I'm trying to do is let my intention, and I hope council and the administration would see the wisdom in it, is that any operator that wants to come in the city and run an adult use facility, or our current operators that are in the audience today, know that this is our structure. So from a fairness standpoint, they're going to know the regulatory framework, right? And what we want in the city of Lakewood and what we ask of our businesses that want to enter this business. Secondly, it evidences the fact that we are waiving that fee because of the tax revenue that the state and the voters have told us we're going to get. But that if that changes, we will reconsider our code to reflect that.
Or could you word it to say,
yeah, we could work on the language, but I think the
so
intent
that you
is
don't
that.
have to come back? Okay, I understand where you're going. And the last clarifying question for the councilman is, if you're a dual use dispensary, how does it work then? If you're medical and adult use?
If you're medical and adult use, that fee would be waived.
Okay.
So your $25,000 fee would be waived. And then, but essentially, you would be remunerating the city with 36% of the 10% tax that you pay on adult use.
Understood. Okay. Councilman Schachter.
I think we could go a step further. I think we could put triggering language in there that if the excise tax is removed, then the fee shall apply within 60 days of the removal being effective. Then the fee shall apply to all dispensaries. I think that really puts people on notice that, we're just not going to sit on our hands and then have another meetings discuss, because we're discussing it now. There's no need to discuss it again. We know why we're doing this. We're doing this because it's built in right now to the state statute. But we'll do, so if we build in the triggering language, put people on notice, hey, once that goes away, because both the State House proposal and the State Senate proposal both eliminated right now. So that's the direction they're going, because they need a larger rainy day fund for some reason. So I say when we craft that language and maybe offline, so it could be presented at the next meeting, that we include triggering language that if that is removed at the state level, that fee goes into effect for all types of dispensaries.
I tend to agree, and I would say maybe it, not just, the triggering is not just eliminated, but it could be lowering, you know, so let's say the net effect of state law changes would be to cut in half the fee. You know, you'd have a local ordinance to say it shall maintain the level in the initiated statute that legalized adult use. I suppose you could say if it's above, if it goes up, which I'd be surprised if the state does. I don't know how you handle that, but anyway, I'd certainly look forward to and welcome a legislative amendment the next time we meet. Any other discussion on this fee point? I have an unrelated question on security. I just want to understand, there's a whole new section proposed on security plans in 42, I think, -2023. And I want to make sure I understand why that's there in the form it's included. It's on page 8, section 17. That new section 17. Okay, so the proposal from the administration is to detail out a new 1165-07. I don't know if we could get that up on screen. It's on page 8 of 42, of the 42 ordinance. And it details it out. And previously it had said, shall be operated pursuant to a different chapter. If the law department could shed some light on that.
Sure, I would be happy to. When we went away from last time we had a committee meeting 2 weeks ago, I tried to take everybody's comments, excuse me, and assume
42.
that all of them would be implemented in one way or another, which is why you have two versions of Chapter 779 in front of you. One is a complete repeal, and the other is the original ordinance as amended, or with additional drafts. One of the comments from the last committee meeting, I believe Councilman Baker was concerned about if we repealed 779, the business provisions, that there's a security plan in there that should stay in effect for police and fire. So those provisions just mirror what is in 779 now. I just brought it into the zoning code and added that it would not be submitted to the Planning Commission nor become part of the public record to protect
Okay,
those
so this is the status
plans.
quo, essentially. We're maintaining the existing security plan requirements for medical and applying it to the new medical or adult or dual use. That's essentially it.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions on that point? Okay. We have a, is there any public comment? I see we have a member of the business community here who spoke last time. Do we have public comment signed in or no? Okay. Just
Excuse me,
wanted to
Mr. Chair.
make ourselves available if we wanted to have public comment. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I know Councilman Shackner talked about revising this evening. In light of the fee discussion, we are going to defer this a couple weeks, get our hands around the drafting. Okay, thank you for that. Just a couple of points on the drafting. As I understand it, fee will remain for medical dispensaries only. No fee currently on adult use, no fee currently on dual use. Okay, just a couple of comments just for consideration. We'll come back in 2 weeks. Keeping this in is easy. A couple of things. Under the current system, before anything happens in Columbus, that would leave a system where on paper we're regulating medical only and levying a fee on medical only. People who are, prescribed this by their doctors and get a medical card, they will be subject, their dispensary will be subject to the regulation, to the fee. Adult use no fee, no regulation. So we will have that perception issue.
The regulation will still be there, but the fee will be waived because of the revenue from the state. And I think we put that clearly in the statute.
Okay, thank you, Councilman.
And I'd be happy to talk with you offline as we help draft this.
Sure. So is the intent to have our building department continue to inspect the adult use? We talked about that a couple weeks ago, given the extensive regulation from the state. When we talked to the building commissioner, I mean, humbly, he doesn't believe there's a whole lot he could add. But we would be, under the current thinking, we're saying keep that building inspection regime in place for both medical and adult. Okay. Second of all, or third of all, we can legislate the fee. Defending the fee is a legal issue that will fall on the law department. We have express dictates from the state legislature on these fees. It's always been a challenge. I'll tell you, the city's been unable to collect any fee based on the sales, but we've been able to collect the per facility fee from RISE. Maybe because RISE believes it's legal, maybe because they believe firmly it's not legal, but they're being a good business partner. They have to work with our planning commission, et cetera. We don't know what tomorrow brings for somebody coming in. And finally, the final consideration would be, if the dual use is exempt from these fees on paper and in thought, there's going to be no practical relevance of this fee. Theoretical, hypothetical arguments down the road, perhaps, if the state legislature does something else. But right now, we only have medical. They will be dual use. We know that. RISE is going to have two dual use facilities. So they will be exempt. Realistically, anybody exempting or investing in this industry is going to invest on the adult use side. So even if RISE closes the west and we get a new one in, likely only to be adult use, practically, we're never going to see this fee come into play on a medical-only facility because it's just not likely to happen. These are not arguments. These are facts for you to consider over the next couple of weeks as you consider this fee structure. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would, the only counter to that, and you're right, those are facts, is that there is a fee, it's just being waived. And so from a practical perspective, and we're being clear as to why it's being waived. And we can work on that language so that it's, makes as most sense to the business community as possible. Because I do think that it's sending a clear message to potential operators on what the issues are. And that this fee is being waived because of the state fee that we will get, the 36% of the 10%. And that's where, and I understand what you're saying from a practical perspective. No, there's likely not going to be an operator that comes in as medical only, but there might be. And we can talk more offline about this, but I think that this protects the city from the promise originally of local governments that are accepting of this industry sharing in the success of the industry. And so that's where I'm going to do everything I can from this position to help us get that benefit that we were promised, both when medical came in and then now when adult use is coming in.
Okay, good discussion. I don't think we have intent to make a motion tonight. We do, it sounds like the spirit of the committee, and I tend to agree with what my colleague said on the drive-through. I guess I do want to return to the cap on the number of businesses and be thoughtful there. So those are two of the issues. The third is the the fee, and we're going to work on that and bring it back in 2 weeks. So I think that concludes our work. Final comments? All right. Without objection, the Housing, Planning, and Development Committee is adjourned.
You want to take 1 minute to get water, since it is rather warm in here, please do so, but we have several things to talk about, so please be back quickly.
I like the one. I was commenting on those.
Oh, yeah?
The last, too. Some place up there. Who's in?
I'll show you where, I'll send you the Amazon link. Is the other part of the building air up too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's, that ended. Please, too.
Any
At least
police?
we got a window open finally.
I thought, I was like, because Bruce's email said that it's on the police part. I was like, well, the other part is here, we could be told to do it alcohol, you know, for. It's not. I know where it's not. You guys are out too?
We're doing That's okay. See, when you asked me, you
Go back down to low 70s. Yeah, it's all right.
Alright, I'm gonna go to the restroom for the next one. What's up next? Committee of the whole?
Yeah, it's a bunch of settlement stuff.
Yeah, I think it's just time. So, yeah, I don't think that We're gonna be putting out money for the Juneteenth, we're gonna have the food and, yeah, so. Yeah, I don't know, maybe, yeah. Where are we? The other thing I was talking to Kate, might be an option that they might be, probably tough to pay. Yes, that's exactly what it was. Would help us start that conversation. For that, she's a that's going to make sure that very much happen. Aside from other, but I mean, this was master storm, like that first year when we were like, hey Matt, go make sure the pavilion's okay.
How are you? Good, good.
What, last year or?
Yeah, yeah. I was down there a couple weeks back for their like senior awards thing. I go down there every year for it's one of the scholarships. So, but yeah, it's just,
Sure. I know that name. Family development business.
my dad was for a long time. He was an architect. He passed away a while ago, but he was an architect with Trot and Bean, and then he was a vice president at Pizzuti for a while. Yeah.
That's maybe where I know him.
But he was an architect, and then he got a law degree from Capital.
All right, we will call Committee of the Whole to order. First, I will move to approve the minutes of the April 22nd Committee of the Whole.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion passes. Okay, we have 3 resolutions on our agenda for today. And all 3 have to do with litigation. And so I will make a motion pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G. I'll move to enter executive session for the purpose of conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action. And I'll include in that motion the law department staff and any relevant members of the administration and council staff, yes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I think we'll do a roll call. Yeah, roll call. So I'll just, Baker,
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Marks, yes. Strebig,
Yes.
Shatner.
Yes.
All right, sorry, I did it out of order. Okay. Okay.
That passes.
That passes, all right. So we're going to head into the even more warm conference room.
Mine's really low anyway, so no problem. I'll go down and check my car out.
No, it's an executive session.
She was just All right, so we are still technically in committee of the whole, so I will move to exit executive session. Motion's been made and seconded. Can you call the roll?
Baker,
Yes.
Bullock,
Yes.
Keppel,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Shackner,
Yeah.
Streebig.
All right, we have exit executive session and no further business. Oh, yeah, we need to move to recommend, can we just do all of them? Resolution 2024-24, Resolution 2024-25, and Resolution 2024-30 to full council
For approval?
for adoption.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes. We did that first, yeah. Okay, no further business. Committee of the whole is adjourned, and we will start full council. All right, we will call to order the May 20th meeting of City Council. If you're able, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we'll now pause for a moment of silence. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Baker,
Here.
Bullock,
Here.
Keppel,
Here.
Marks,
Here.
Rader, absent, Shackner,
Here.
Streebig.
Here.
Move to excuse the absence of Councilman Rader.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held May 6, 2024.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the joint meeting of council and the Board of Education held May 13, 2024.
Move to approve without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I just want to thank the council staff for getting these turned around very quickly and with some technical difficulties as well, so appreciated. All right, motion's been made and seconded. No discussion. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes. Oh, yeah, so without objection, we will move items 10 and 11 to the top. All right.
Item 10, communication from Mayor George, President Keppel, and Councilmember Streebig regarding Pride Month 2024.
We'll go to Mayor George or Mayor George? Oh, okay, all right. Sorry, I didn't warn you that we were going to do that. So while Mayor George is pulling that up, I just want to welcome everyone to our council meeting tonight. If you were wondering, we were in a committee meeting right before this. That's why we were coming out of that and have to exit that before we started this. So since we have a lot of young people here, just give a little civics while we're at it. All right.
For our viewer at home, we're kind of in short sleeves and a little casual because the air conditioning is being repaired. So special viewer note.
Yes, so we're a little more casual than usual. All right, Mayor George, are you ready for us? All right.
I'm ready, and I also want to acknowledge students from Lakewood High School or from the Lakewood City Schools who are here tonight. Some teachers had reached out to my office, so we're very glad that you're able to join us tonight as we have our Pride Month resolution. So thank you all for being here. And to everybody else, too, that has joined us to support this very, very important resolution that I'm very proud to say in the Lakewood community has been customary. So let me begin by reading the communication. Celebrating Pride Month raises awareness and provides support and advocacy for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community. And it's an opportunity to become educated, engage in dialogue, strengthen alliances, and build understanding. While there have been remarkable progress towards acceptance and equality, members of the LGBTQ+ community continue to face discrimination, intolerance, and hate. By protecting the rights of every individual, we enhance and strengthen the value of everyone throughout our entire society. We affirm our support for LGBTQ+ residents in our community and stand with them to protect their civil rights and their ability to live openly, equally, and without fear. Therefore, we are submitting for your consideration this resolution that the City of Lakewood recognizes and supports the month of June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Pride Month. And we urge all residents to celebrate and build a culture of inclusiveness and acceptance this month and every month. Thank you very much to my co-sponsors, and I know every council member, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I know you will, would strongly supports this resolution.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file the communication first.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Councilwoman Striebeck.
Thank you, President Keppel. Mayor George, President Keppel, City Council members, city administrators, and invested public. When I was a young girl, growing up in North Ridgeville, I remember my father commenting that more gay people lived in Lakewood than anywhere else between New York City and Chicago. I knew at that moment that I would eventually live here, among caring and open-minded people. Lakewood was a beacon of light for me then, and I'm so proud to join you now to light the way for the next generation of queer people. It is with great joy that I join our mayor in recognizing June as Pride Month in Lakewood, at a time when children living their authentic lives are being attacked by state representatives and local city councils that don't have the courage to look beyond themselves or show a bit of concern for others. Our Mayor George has again initiated and shown her leadership with this resolution. We still have a little work to do here in Lakewood to reach a perfect score of 100 on the Human Rights Campaign Municipal Equality Index. But I'm confident with your direction, Mayor George, that we will reach that pinnacle. Thank you for celebrating the authenticity and diversity of our queer community.
Thank you. I'll just add my appreciation to Mayor George and Councilwoman Striebeck for bringing this forward. And as Mayor George mentioned, we are very fortunate here in Lakewood that this has become an annual tradition and one that is celebrated by our community. We hear from communities around us where, in fact, just down the road a little bit in a municipality tonight, I know that there are conversations happening around controversy around the council and local administration supporting the LGBTQ+ community. And I think it's wonderful that we have so many young people here tonight. I really appreciate you being here because it's important, even though our state government is doing all that they can to make life harder on LGBT people, and particularly LGBT youth and trans youth, that you know that your local government supports you. With that, any other council members? Discussion? Councilwoman Marks.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Mayor George and President Keppel and certainly Councilwoman Cindy Striebeck for bringing this forward. I do have to say that I'm so proud of Cindy Striebeck for taking a stand to protect the queer community and being willing to fight the fight to make sure that everybody can live their authentic self. I'm so proud to have you on Lakewood City Council. You're a beacon for hope for the gay community here in Lakewood and Cuyahoga County. You're so involved, so invested, and I'm so proud of you. So proud to have you on City Council. Thank you.
Councilman Bullock.
Madam President, thanks for the resolution, and to my colleagues for bringing it forward. Very happy to support it, and thank you to the full crowd tonight of engaged, enthusiastic, and energized Lakewood neighbors and residents. It's wonderful to have you here, and I look forward to supporting you.
Councilman Baker.
Yeah, thank you to the mayor and Councilperson Streebig and Council President Keppel for bringing this forward. Growing up in Lakewood, it was a point of pride that our community was known that way. We're an accepting community, and just so happy to see so many people here on a 90-degree day when they could be at Lakewood Park or enjoying the great weather, that they're cooped up in this air-conditioned room to support this resolution. So just thank you to my colleagues and the mayor for bringing this forward, and I will gladly support it.
Yep. Vice President Schechner.
Just a couple comments. Thank you for everyone that brought this resolution to fruition, and it's one of those things that isn't automatic. It takes work. So I remember attending a Cleveland Stonewall Democrats meeting a while back, and leadership from that went through the fights of the 60s, 70s, 80s, talking about how do we keep people engaged now that we have all these victories, and it's very clear that the fight is never over. There's always somebody trying to tear you down. And also another thing to note, I was reading some commentary from a young person who was absolutely shocked that gay marriage used to be illegal in 2015, until 2015, and that, wow, I just always thought it was this way. But, you come here on the shoulders of giants that have really paved the way. Both Cindy's have been fighting for a long period of time for our LGBTQ family out here. And I think I have to echo what former Councilman O'Malley used to always say this month, that there was a time when flying the flag over, pride flag over City Hall was extremely controversial, and even councilman proposed flying it over the dump at one point. So things change. Often, hopefully for the better, but again, it takes work to do it. It doesn't happen automatically. So thank you all for doing the work.
Thank you. All right, on the motion to receive and file the communication, all those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 11.
We're almost there.
Item 11, Resolution 2024-34, a resolution recognizing June 2024 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Queer Questioning and Plus Month.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, so this is the actual resolution that's up on the screen. We'll vote in a moment to pass the resolution, assuming that it passes, which, given our dialogue, I think is a fair assumption. We'll invite anyone who'd like to join us up front, and we'll have a ceremonial copy of the resolution and take a picture. Okay. Any further discussion on the resolution? All right. Oh, yeah, we do. There's a, yes, in public comment. I do want to, yeah, we'll move to substitute with changing on section 2, the date, it lists 2023, and we want 2024.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Do we need to do a roll call on a resolution? Okay. All right. So, all in favor of the substitution, I guess, right?
Aye.
Yes?
We all know what we're trying to do.
Okay, we all know what we're trying to do. Okay. All right, so we were substituted. And then do we have public comment? Do we have folks signed in? No, we don't. Do we have any e-comment? No. Okay. All right, so we'll move to adopt as substituted. Right? Yes.
Yes, second.
When Jason doesn't second right away, I'm a little concerned I'm doing it. Okay. All right, so adopt as substituted. All right, all those in favor of adopting as substituted? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes. All right, we have now adopted the resolution. And
You can clap now.
yeah, you can clap now. All right. And if you'd like to join us down front, we'll get a picture.
All right, we will return to the top. And folks, you are welcome to stay in this very hot auditorium and watch the rest of our meeting, but you are also welcome, if you have other places you'd rather be, to go to those places. All right, Madam Clerk.
Item 1, report from Housing Planning and Development Committee meeting held May 20th, 2024.
Councilman Bullock.
Thank you, Madam President. The Housing Planning and Development Committee met tonight. An hour ago, we considered 3 ordinances. 2 of those were related to changes to our city code to allow for adult use marijuana in compliance with the recently passed state law, initiated statute that the voters voted to approve. We heard a number of considerations that the law department identified and prepared and either proposed some language changes on or at least highlighted for our consideration decisions to be made. Those included whether or not to allow for drive-through windows and whether or not to define a hard limit on the number of dispensary permits in the city. We may not need to do that given the fact that there's geographic limits already built in, but there's some discussion to continue there. Another big point of discussion was the structure and the amount of potential fees that the city would allocate to dispensaries of the medical category, the adult use category, or the dual use category. So we had some good discussion. The consensus was that we'd come back in 2 weeks with more detailed amendments and then potentially be in a position to conclude our work in committee and refer out to the full council those 2 ordinances. If we were to be able to hold to that timeline, we would be on schedule for the earliest anticipated date in a practical sense of when new business operators would be ready to open their doors in late June. So there was good discussion, but more to come. That concluded the work on those 2 ordinances, which are 41-2023 and 42-2023. We also worked tonight in committee on Resolution 2024-12, which is next on the docket, the resolution to adopt the Madison Park Master Plan. Had a good discussion in which we reviewed new additions to the plan to reflect feedback from the City Council and from the Planning Commission. There's a new page at the end of the draft plan, and after some discussion, we agreed to that and agreed to the plan as a whole. So our work in committee concluded by a substitution of the plan attached to the proposed resolution and a reporting out of the proposed resolution as substituted to the full council with a recommendation for adoption. Move to receive and file that oral report.
Second. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? So the recommendation was to adopt with the updated version of the plan. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Madam President, as substituted. And I hope that report was clear and not just stream of consciousness. It was.
Remarkably succinct.
Thank you. And if desired, when we consider the next point, we could review the page with the changes on it. Thanks.
All right. I'll move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 2, Resolution 2024-12, a resolution to take effect immediately to adopt the Madison Park Master Plan.
Move to adopt, we're substituting the actual resolution or the plan?
Yeah, because the version of
Okay, so we're substituting the actual resolution, not just the plan. Then. Got it. Okay. All right. So we will move to substitute as referred favorably out of committee. Yeah. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Baker.
Yes.
Bullock.
Yes.
Keppel.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Shackner. Streebig.
Yes.
And that motion passes. All right, we'll move to adopt as substituted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Madam President,
Yes, Councilman Bullock.
I believe Councilman Shackner, who's controlling the screen here, is looking to display the changes, which is in a different document, I think. Go back one to the middle option. If you go to the third to the last page.
You know.
Okay, almost there. This one? Am I almost there yet?
No.
122. One.
Go back 2 pages. There we go. This screen.
And now we just, oh, you just got unplugged. Yeah, the heat is melting the iPad, I think.
We're doing this on purpose to give our colleague a hard time. At any rate, okay, so on screen, the council members can see the substance of the dialogue with the planning department and the administration. You know, speaking as a council member and also the committee member, I appreciated the collegiality that we were able to work with and through both the planning commission and the city council members who participated had, I think, thoughtful feedback to enhance an already excellent plan. I should have said that at the outset, that the county planning commission worked with the city planning department, with residents from Friends of Madison Park and many other groups to put together a really terrific plan that not only has a thoughtful structure to it, but goes through in some detail the amenities and improvements, and then has a detailed implementation schedule and calendar. These are on top of what was in the base recommended plan to improve fencing around the playground areas with good sight line that's for safety and for convenience of kids, to increase access to restrooms year-round, which is something that Public Works Director Gordon is happy to take questions from council members and the public on hourly during the warm weather months, and I'm sure that will increase. Consider feasibility for neighbor impacts to make sure that neighbor impacts are thoughtful. Add amenities near the basketball area and partner with businesses to the south of the park, namely the blossoming and flowering Lake Erie Screw Factory business activity. At the north end of the park, especially on Madison Avenue, consider safety, and what's not directly reflected here is kind of wayfinding and indicating to the passersby that this is a park entrance, not only any park entrance, but a flagship park of Lakewood, and so forth. All right, so it was a really good and productive dialogue, and you can see the incorporated additions here, and I really am pleased with how City Council and the administration have been working together on these plans. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll just express my appreciation for all the hard work of everyone that went into this plan, and the community dialogue as well around it has been great as well. So excited to see these improvements. All right, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the substituted version. No further discussion. All those in favor of adoption? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 3, Ordinance 41, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately to amend Chapter 779 Medical Marijuana Operations of the Codified Ordinances to provide a permitting process for both medical and adult use marijuana dispensaries.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 4, Ordinance 42, 2023, an ordinance to take effect immediately to amend Schedule 112902, permitted uses in commercial districts in Chapter 1165 medical marijuana dispensaries of the codified ordinances and to permit medical and adult use marijuana dispensaries in commercial districts.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 5, report from Committee of the Whole meeting held today, May 20th, 2024.
So our Committee of the Whole met earlier this evening, 7 o'clock, entered executive session to discuss 3 resolutions. The first, 2024-2024, settlement regarding the housing of sentenced individuals with Cuyahoga County. The resolution 2024-25, a settlement regarding the Marine Towers West garage incident, and resolution 2024-30 regarding a Bureau of Workers' Compensation claim. After exiting executive session, all 3 resolutions were referred favorably out of committee for adoption at full council. I'll move to receive and file that report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 6, Resolution 2024-24, a resolution to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor or director of law to enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County to accept the amount of $100,000 in settlement of all claims to the date of the agreement regarding the housing of sentenced individuals.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 7, Resolution 2024-25, a resolution to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor or director of law to enter into an agreement to accept the total amount of $37,000 in settlement of all remaining civil claims against the Atlas Masonry Restoration and Maintenance, Burton Carroll Management, and Marine Towers Limited Liability Company regarding the collapse of the parking garage at 12540 Edgewater Drive.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 8, Resolution 2024-30, a resolution to take effect immediately, authorizing the mayor or director of law to enter into an agreement with a current employee to pay $30,000 in settlement of pending Bureau of Workers' Compensation claims.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 9, Ordinance 8, 2024, an ordinance to take effect immediately, amending Chapter 911, Lakewood Incinerator, to update the provisions for the operation of the newly opened Refuse and Recycling Center.
First, move to substitute.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We have the substitute version in Granicus. Any discussion on the motion to substitute? No. Okay. Yeah.
Baker?
Yes.
Bullock?
Yes.
Keppel?
Yes.
Marks? Schachner?
Yes.
Strebig?
Yes.
All right. And move to adopt as substituted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Oh, we have a public comment, an e-comment, I think.
Yes.
The comment is more in regards to recycling options on apartment buildings. So we'll enter that. That will be as part of the record, of course. All right. We don't have anybody signed in a public comment, though, right, on this? Okay. All right. All right. Other discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to adopt as substituted, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 12, March and April Finance Department reports submitted pursuant to Lakewood Codified Ordinances 11103.
We'll just move to receive and file.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Item 13, communication from Senior Planner Michelle Nocta regarding application to the State of Ohio through ODNR for the NatureWorks Grant Program.
Acting Director Boss.
So I'll just enter this communication on behalf of Senior Planner Nocta here. So, dear Council President Keppel and members of Council, following this letter is a resolution authorizing the Planning Department to apply for financial assistance to the State of Ohio through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. ODNR administers funding for public outdoor recreation purposes through the state-funded NatureWorks grant program. The funds would be used to help execute the improvement plan for Madison Park. The NatureWorks grant can provide up to $150,000 reimbursement for qualifying park improvement expenses. The grant application requires a commitment of 25% matching funds for a grant up to $150,000. The main playground at Madison Park has been identified as a high priority item due to the increased maintenance required and the growing obsolescence of playground components as the structure ages. The playground is heavily utilized and is prized by city residents and visitors. A playground replacement estimate for this project obtained during the master planning process for the new playground with amenities for large and small children and a rubberized surface material has a cost of just under $500,000. The project is currently in the CIP for next year. The commitment to funding will improve the grant application scoring. Competing for this program can help the city realize the execution of the improvement plan efficiently. The Planning Department spent most of 2023 working with a consultant to design a park improvement plan for Madison Park based on public participation, current usage, and best planning practices. The Planning Commission approved the concept design and improvement plan on April 29th, 2024. The deadline to submit a resolution of support for the ODNR NatureWorks grant is tentatively set as July 1st of this year. I respectfully request approval of this resolution on first reading if possible. And we'd be happy to answer any further questions you have on this grant. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. First, move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 14, Resolution 2024-33, a resolution to take effect immediately authorizing the Mayor, Director of Public Works, and City Engineer to submit an application for the NatureWorks grant through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources to execute any and all agreements necessary to accept an award and to obligate funds required to complete the project to become eligible for reimbursement under the grant program.
Move to adopt. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam President.
Yes, Councilman Bullock.
I'm happy to support this. Thank you to the Planning Department for being attentive to the timely nature of this. We have a approved Madison Park Master Plan as of 15 minutes ago, so it's remarkable timing. The studies related to the Master Park planning process called out the playground as a top 2 or 3 draw to the whole park. So it's well targeted, well needed attention and funding. So I'm glad that we're focused on this. Happy to support this tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. Further discussion? No? I'll just echo my appreciation of the Planning Department administration for having this ready to go. So we passed the Madison Park Master Plan and already trying to get some grant money to pay for it. So very much appreciated. Yep, Councilman Baker. Yeah.
Thank you. And this is early, but I don't think that it would come back before council if it was approved. But I would encourage the law department to really dig into these grant agreements and the associated declaration of restrictions that come from them, because, and not expressing an opinion one way or the other, but that's the reason why Lakewood Pool, people wonder why we can't exclude non-residents. It's because of grant programs like this that are statewide. So it's important to really dig into them to make sure that the investment that the state is giving us is worth what we control we have over our own park. So just think about that.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion to wait. We're still on the communication, right? No, we're on the resolution. We're on the resolution. Okay, sorry. We have a motion and a second to adopt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 15, communication from Assistant Planning Director Boss regarding amendments to Chapter 1135 mixed-use overlay.
Director Boss again.
Dear Council President Keppel and members of City Council, Over the past months, in response to inquiries about what is or could be permitted within our existing industrial district, we have researched potential methods to increase flexibility towards conditionally allowing select compatible commercial uses across these parcels. Under Chapter 1131, which is the industrial district, our code currently allows for traditionally permitted uses in our industrial parcels, such as research and development, manufacturing, wholesaling, and storage. In 2006, the code was amended to also allow professional, clerical, and administrative office uses. Our community's vision's economic development focus area includes guidance to maintain, quote, a zoning code that is nimble enough to address evolving markets and commercial opportunities, end quote. In keeping with the vision and in responding to the expressed desire for more flexibility with the current and future potential uses of our industrial parcels, including the adaptive reuse of existing structures, we submit this amendment to Chapter 1135 to expand the application of select conditional commercial uses via the mixed-use overlay to the industrial district. The select commercial use categories proposed for conditional consideration in the industrial district as part of a mixed-use overlay include institutional, which would include trade and vocational schools only, entertainment, food and beverage, which would be limited to restaurant seated table service and bar, tavern, and nightclub only, professional services, which would include radio, TV, video, and audio production only, service retail, and hard goods retail. It is recommended that this amendment be referred to the Planning Commission and appropriate committee for further discussion. Refinement is needed and adoption. Thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 16, Ordinance 9, 2024, an ordinance to take effect immediately, amending Chapter 1135, Mixed-Use Overlay District, to allow for flexibility and inclusion of industrial zoning districts.
I'll move to refer to Housing Planning and Development and Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam President?
Yes, Councilman Bullock.
Quick question for the Planning Department. I'm quoting the previous communication. So the proposal as drafted at the moment would be to expand the application of select conditional commercial uses via the mixed-use overlay to the industrial district. So the proposal would be for all industrial parcels in the city to be eligible for the listed conditional commercial uses, and then the Planning Commission would be the deciding entity based on a specific application by a specific property owner with a plan attached and so forth. But right now, it's not some, it would be all industrial parcels, right?
That's correct.
As currently proposed. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any further discussion? On the motion to refer to Housing Planning Development and Planning Commission, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And that motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Director of Public Works Gordon regarding the 2024 Public Works Week.
Dr. Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. Dear President Keppel and members of City Council, the following is a resolution proclaiming the week of May 19th through May 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week. The American Public Works Association is proud to announce the theme, Advancing Quality of Life for All, for the 2024 National Public Works Week. The City of Lakewood Public Works Department continues to contribute to advancing and enhancing residents' quality of life. These professionals continue to provide essential services that leads Lakewood to be a healthier, happier, more vibrant community. The Advancing Quality of Life for All theme shines a spotlight in the way the City of Lakewood Public Works professionals advance our quality of life, whether as a responder to a water break, regular waste pickup, or an endless list of other ways they silently serve our community. The City of Lakewood Public Works professionals provide an infrastructure of services in water distribution, wastewater collection, wastewater treatment plant, parks and properties, street maintenance, forestry, fleet maintenance, refuse and recycling, and engineering. They are what make Lakewood a dynamic place to live and work. I kindly ask that City Council adopt the attached resolution on first reading to join me in celebrating the quiet work these professionals do that makes life better for all Lakewood residents. Please let me know if you have any further questions.
Thank you. I'll move to receive and file that communication.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And that motion passes.
Item 18, Resolution 2024-35, a resolution to take effect immediately to recognizing May 19th, 2024 through May 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Councilman Bullock.
I'll just say I agree with what Director Gordon read in the previous communication, the letter. I mean, it's true. Public Works does everything in city government except safety. And half of what they do probably overlaps directly with safety when it comes to roads and plenty of other things. So it's well-deserved recognition, and I'm glad that we're recognizing you and your team. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilwoman Streben.
Yes, I'd like to echo that and ask why only 1 week? I mean, for all the stuff that is taken care of in the Public Works Department, it seems like we should have a month. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? I'll echo those and say that as we go around in the community, it is common to get compliments about our public works staff and the services provided to residents. We have a high quality of service here in Lakewood, and that is through the hard work of these public works employees, so very much appreciated. All right, so we have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution. All those in favor? Aye, and that motion passes. All right, we're now at public comment. We have, hey. Are you signed in? We can go ahead and call you. Come on up while we get the rest of the list. Yeah, right.
Ahoy, mateys. My name is Robert Organ. I live at 14513 Bays, as you all probably know. You probably have it memorized by now, I think. And look at me. I'm out of a sling. I was able to ride my bike for the first time in about a month today, so a lot to be thankful for. But what I want to start with is I want to thank Acting Director Boss and Director Gordon for pushing forward with this Bunce Road rehab project. Looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. I also want to thank the administration for supporting our hike and bike week last week. It was a pretty big success, even though we had a few days that were not ideal weather. We had quite a few kids out walking in the rain, riding their bikes to school. That was really great to see. So I want to thank everybody for supporting that, especially Councilman Bullock. I know he pushed to have a couple of schools that weren't exactly planning to have that done until the last minute, so that was great. Thank you. I want to echo what Ben Van Leer has been talking about with all of you, with many of you via email, and just remind you all that we are moving forward with our planning for Bike with the Mayor on June 15th, pending everybody's schedule. So please come out, ride with us, see the city for what it is, the way we see it, and how we can improve that. And with that, as I mentioned, today I rode my bike for the first time in almost a month, and I was so excited. I had to go get a prescription from CVS on the corner of 117th and Clifton. And as I was riding home on Hurd, the driver, was not intentionally trying to drive aggressively or anything. He just flat out didn't see me, pulled out of a parking lot, and nearly knocked me off my bike, nearly hit me. And I was a little upset with the driver, but what I want to reiterate is that there are so many things that we can do in our city, such as the Bunce Road Rehab Project, to eliminate a lot of that driver error. Just the same thing that I talk about almost every week. My wife and I were almost hit on the way here, right in front of Angelo's, because the parking there blocks visibility, so drivers have to pull out and they can't see oncoming traffic. So redesigning our streets so that drivers are forced to go slower, to pay greater levels of attention, and reduce some of that human error will make the streets safer for everybody. Just like Director Gordon just mentioned, it would do a lot to increase the quality of life for everybody, both living in Lakewood and visiting. So I encourage everybody here to really, so to speak, put your foot on the gas and accelerate these improvements to our streets with curb bump outs, daylighting, things like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just mention I am also looking forward to the Bike with the Mayor and City Leader or whatever event. And would just want to note that we also heard today of Madison Court Community Coalition. Their Juneteenth event is also on June 15th. So if possible, that those two events could be at different times, it would be much appreciated. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, we have no one else signed in for public comment. So announcements from council members.
Thanks, Madam President. Want to, first of all, acknowledge Councilman Baker at Hayes Elementary also led a bike walk to school week group. Well, you know, we'll see. So that was, I just wanted to share briefly. I have to type up notes and organize thoughts, but it was a very positive experience, and we did walk by the Bike Lakewood tent in the rain on Friday, and on the way back got a vegan donut, which was excellent, and had good conversation. It was really positive experience, really fun. You know, kicked off the week with one dad saying, "I had a blast riding with my son to school on Monday," and it was just, you know, things like that. Like, people were really prompted to actually make the effort, get out and walk. I think we have hard evidence, thanks to the guidance from the planning department, to say actually get counts. And we also noticed that when it rained, the participation dropped off significantly, but not for everybody, because one third grader went to school on a bike with his jacket over his backpack. He says, "Yeah, my dad told me to do that." So it worked. And what I thought was wonderful more than anything was the fellowship it built, and just the neighborly relations, and the beginning of parents trying to problem solve and figure out how to do this, and realizing, oh, it's not that hard. So I look forward to building on that beginning.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone's work on that. It was fun to see. I live right on Summit there, and there was a whole herd of kids going across on their bikes to and from school, and it was really cool to see. Appreciate that. Councilman Stubing.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize the Downtown Lakewood Business Alliance for a very successful spring stroll yesterday. For those of you that didn't make it out, we had a wonderful time up and down Detroit Avenue, going in and out of the shops. And I actually got to go into two shops that I've never been in, and probably wouldn't have gone in. And just to encourage everyone that while you're out and about, to make sure that you frequent our small business owners here in Lakewood. Thank you.
All right. Yep, Councilman Baker.
Yeah, maybe this should have gone on during the Public Works Week thing, but I'd like to compliment the Public Works Department. I have been going to Madison Park a lot for soccer practice, and there wasn't a piece of trash in that place, and there's probably like 2,000 or 3,000 people, so that's impressive. And I know, like, the night staff that comes in does a great job too. So thank Public Works.
Thank you. Further? All right. I would like to also, our City Council intern, Corey Stofko, just graduated Sunday, right? Magna cum laude from Case Western Reserve with a bachelor's degree in political science and economics. And we just want to congratulate Corey. And it's he's not leaving us yet, but we're very proud of your work, and thankful for all that you've done here with us. So congratulations on that achievement. Yep. All right. Any other announcements from council? Announcements from the administration? No? All right. With that, I will move to adjourn. Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. And we are adjourned.